Would I be the idiot for calling off my wedding because my fiancé is extremely frugal? I, female 31, struggle with my fiancé's male 32 frugalness and not sure if I want to marry him anymore after 3 years of relationship. Throwaway as my fiancé follows my regular account. I met my fiancé 3 years ago. He came out of an abusive marriage just 2 years before we met. One of her absolute abuses was financial. She bled him dry. Made him buy expensive jewelry only to give it away or break it after an argument. Designer shoes, clothes, big house, cars, Caribbean trips. You name it, she made him pay for it. She also took him to the cleaners in the divorce. However, my fiancé is very well off. He makes far over 6 figures, almost 7. On top of that, he inherited a few millions from his grandfather, and his parents gifted him and his siblings also a few cool millions. So yes, the financial abuse was bad, but he does not suffer financially. He has more money than he will ever need. So last year I moved into his house. I do not pay rent, but I split the bills and buy food. I pay for my own clothes and jewelry. I have a good job and I can take care of myself. However, things have been taking a turn for the worse and I feel miserable. His house was empty when I moved in. He had handed me the furniture. Maybe 3 forks and 2 knives. He wouldn't put on the heating, so the house felt cold and moldy. He has no curtains, no decorations. His ex took everything not bolted down, and he was too cheap to replace it. Just imagine $1 million house like that. I am grateful that I can live in his house. It is something I could never afford myself. But I didn't want to live in squalor. So I bought some kitchen supplies, some furniture, but at some point I realized I was dipping in my savings all the time and he did nothing. I looked into the curtains, but those things are expensive. His house has so many windows, it is crazy. I didn't want to pay for this anymore. I told him I needed a fund to furnish his house. He blew up at me that I was just with him for his money. I pointed out all the money I spent on his house. The gifts and the trips, because he pays for nothing ever. Because he wants to be sure I am not here for the money. The fact is, if we break up I have nothing. The house is not mine. If I spend all my savings on his house I will be left with absolutely nothing. He wants a prenup and I am fine with that, but I can't help but feel used. Next to that, I am jealous of his ex-wife. I feel like she got treated and I am neglected. He proposed to his ex on a cruise with a $10,000 white gold diamond ring. I got the rhodium-plated Swarovski stuff that might cost like $100. The proposal was at a picnic in the park I organized, paid groceries for and slaved in the kitchen for. I almost said no out of pure disappointment. However, I am afraid to bring it up and to be called a gold digger. I don't want to be funding a millionaire's lifestyle. He loves everything as long as I pay for it. As soon as he has to pay, it is frivolous, unnecessary. I can live like a poor person by myself. At least the fact there are literal millions lying around doesn't hang over me to bum me out. And I would just be paying for my own lifestyle. Would I be the idiot for calling off a wedding purely for financial reasons? Because I love this man, but I imagine our cheap wedding in contrast to his ex, her extravaganza. Will our future kids be able to have some luxuries? Or only if I pay for it? What if I ever become a stay-at-home mom? Will I have to beg to put the heating on? Edited to answer questions I see a lot. I know the abuse is not made up. His family and friends told me separate stories of the abuse they witnessed. Not only did it confirm it, it showed me she was way more terrible than I thought. Like stealing heirloom jewelry of his grandma with Alzheimer's right after she was widowed. Pretending she was gifted these things even though everyone knew grandma hated her guts. I did not realize or see he is doing the same to me as she was to him, and he is, subconsciously, punishing me for what was done to him. I am not trying to force a lifestyle on him where he was previously happy. He told me prior to moving in that he left his house like this because he was depressed after his wife took everything, even the curtains, that it makes him sad and he wants a cozy home. He just didn't know where to start. His house is paid off, thanks to Granddad. He isn't actually spending much on utilities either. The house is very well isolated and has solar panels. It is weird to see how cheap being rich really is. I am not asking for designer furniture. IKEA all the way, and I have refurbished second-hand furniture myself. I am actually pretty thrifty. I see where my jealousy over her lifestyle might have triggered some people. Let me explain. A $10,000 ring is insane and stupid to me. I do not want that because I would fear losing it every day. I don't need an over-the-top wedding. However, it almost feels like he made an effort. Wanted to give her what made her happy. Put effort and thought in it. With me, it almost feels like he wants to prove how little he can give me. He talked about how he would see the wedding and it is cheaper than my actually financially struggling cousin's wedding. I can't help but feel he wants to demonstrate how cheap he can treat me. And I already feel embarrassed about the family that would have been to both, and I will feel like the discount wife. I don't like to say it, but it feels like he gets off on it to some extent. We are almost talking about washing paper plates at this moment. Yes, I did discuss selling the mansion I really don't need and moving to a more modest house. Especially knowing this is the house his ex picked. He doesn't want to do that. He loves this house. But I feel really intimidated living in a house I could never afford anyway. And so many large windows. I haven't talked to him yet, but pausing on the marriage and counseling is a must. I already am looking for an IC because I realized I might indeed be too much of a people pleaser, allowing him to control me with the ghost of his ex. I also am going to separate for a while. I am looking to rent something for a few months so I can get some space. Now for a few comments before the update. Not the idiot. I understand you've had some trauma in your past, and I'm sorry you went through that. But I can't allow you to mistreat me because of it. It burns me up inside that you gave her everything, but I have to beg for the bare minimum. I deserve to feel cherished by my partner, as I have cherished you. Comment 2. Counseling. Insist on premarital counseling. He is reacting to his divorce and his feelings about it by taking it out on you. Don't spend another dime on him or his house. But I do suggest you two do some entertaining. Invite his family and friends over. Your family and friends. If he wants you to pay half, do so, but only within your budget. Invite 20 people over to sit on the floor and eat frozen lasagna and drink Crystal Light off paper plates. Without heat or air conditioning. Open the curtains and shed light on how you live. Now for the update. Okay, I hope this update makes sense because I am very confused and not really doing that well at the moment. Well, Reddit, you changed my life. Thank you so much for all your ideas and insights. Honestly, I don't think I would have had the courage to do what I did without you guys. I went to therapy, took the day off just to get my racing mind to calm down. Therapy has confirmed things you guys suspected. I am a people pleaser. I wanted to save him, and I have internalized the idea that any effort and every penny I want him to spend on me makes me a gold digger. I will have weekly sessions to work on me. I realized I would have never taken this treatment from any of my exes. Even though I made more than them. The idea I had to prove myself worthy to be with a millionaire and not being there for the money got into my head pretty early. I called one of his siblings I am pretty close with and just told her everything. She was not surprised but just sad about how unhappy he was making me. She told me that from the day we started he had this idea that I was out of his league. He struggled to understand why I wanted to be with him, and he probably just thought, it must be my money. She told me she already talked to him in the past to treat me better. She was furious about the proposal. This information confused me a little. I was a little hurt she never discussed any of this before, but she thought it was none of her business. She also explained how she and her husband organized their finances. He also doesn't have as much as her. I took the opportunity to pack a bag. I haven't found a place yet, but I am going to stay with my parents. I made up my mind that I will at least want 6 months apart to get myself in order. I made sure my stuff was in the car because honestly I had no idea how the conversation would go. So into the most difficult part. The talk. I waited for him to come home. He was pretty late, but I didn't want to sleep another night on this. Pretending I was fine while I was contemplating all this just ate me up. I had written down what I wanted to say. I have never been so scared before. I didn't want to hurt him, and I didn't know how he would react. I took some advice from here. I said that I was moving out and that I wanted to pause our engagement. He was very quiet and just sat down. I told him he really hurt me by calling me a gold digger and that I am done walking on eggshells and feeling guilty for just wanting basic things. I told him I was unhappy and felt neglected. I also told him that after 3 years of me showing up for him, he still doesn't think I am here for him. It is not going to happen. He was just quiet. He didn't say anything. I told him that the constant comparison to his ex was unhealthy and unfair. Punishing me for her sins was abusive. I told him comparing her to me all the time has triggered me comparing myself to her and starting to feel like she was worth more than me. One of the things about her was mostly ungratefulness. He would do nice things for her, but it was never enough. The thing is, he doesn't do nice things for me and I have to be grateful for the pleasure of picking up the bill. I told him he was not ready for marriage. That I dreaded having kids with him and living like this. That is, I didn't trust he would take care of me if I would become a stay-at-home mom. And at that point I just called him abusive and a user. I was getting pretty angry saying all this out loud. Losing my composure and script a little bit. He remained quiet with almost no emotion on his face. I stayed quiet but nothing came out, so I decided that I would just leave. Only when I got up to go did he say please don't go. He asked me if I was pausing the wedding or calling it off. He wanted to know if it was over or if he still had a shot. I told him I wanted out of this house. I honestly don't want to live in his ex or palace of sadness anymore. I needed him to go to therapy and especially financial therapy. I needed a separation. I told him I was open to couples counseling if he went into IC. He begged me not to do the separation, but honestly I really wanted it. I just told him to think about it, and I left him. He was finally showing some emotions. He was crying at this point. He sent me a very long text somewhere in the AM. Told me he was a wreck and couldn't sleep. He made all kinds of promises. He would go into therapy, sell his house, buy a smaller one, and make sure I am taken care of whatever happens. He said he would help me decorate, and we will make a home. He again asked me to please come home. But to me it doesn't feel like home there anyway. I feel very empty and tired. I have been sleeping most of the day. I feel guilty but also a little bit relieved, if that makes sense. I don't know if I actually want back if he does all that. I am a little unsteady right now. I need some time to process. I will go back for the kitchen supplies and my TV. I won't take anything else from the furniture. This is the exact same reason I was unwilling to buy everything. His house is huge, so the couch is huge. I can't take it. Comment 1. If you go back, it needs to be after he has started doing the work for an extended period of time. Not just a few weeks. People will promise you the sun and stars, but once they get you back it suddenly isn't a priority, and they'll start fulfilling all these promises later. Or they'll put in real effort for a few weeks and then slide back into their old comfortable complacency. Talk about what he needs to work on, and if he does it and sticks to it for 6 months to a year, then I'd be willing to consider that things are turning around. He doesn't need to do everything perfect right away, but he needs to keep trying and continuing with therapy and strategies that you both feel comfortable with. Comment 2. You're the idiot. In an absolutely monumental way, who do you think you are, expecting a man who was financially abused and taken advantage of to just forget about his past and shower you with the wealth he's worked so hard for? You've been with him for 3 years and you're already complaining about his house and the way he chooses to spend his money, even though it's very clear that he's been through a traumatic experience. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.